I'm going to show you a few ideas to help you get the most out of Google. So first of all, when you go to Google you get the search box, and I hope you're all aware. So I'm going to put in a relevant search term, and I want to show you how Google begins to give you some suggestions that might help you. So first thing that you might want to do is consider putting some of these down on a piece of paper to come back to and search later on. So we're going to stick with child mortality for the moment, and we're going to search. So here is our search. We've got a few useful things that look like they might be handy, but we don't really know where to start because, as we can see, it's brought back a very large number of results. So some ways in which you could narrow down the results to make sure you're getting things that are really helpful to you. I want to show you down here where it says more search tools. First of all, the reading level. So you can narrow down your reading level by basic, intermediate or advanced. So what I would suggest to you is that you start off looking at intermediate. It's a much more manageable number. And you know that these things aren't going to be above your head. So now you can see we've got some really interesting articles from The Guardian, some rates for the UK, some charities, some particular information that we could go into to have a look at. Another way we can narrow it down is to look in the timeline. So if you click on timeline, you can then get a timeline appear at the top. So I want to look at recent causes of mortality, so I'm going to go in at 2000 to 2099 here. And then I can look at within the last 2 years. And if I try and find the most recent article available to us, then you can see the issue of child mortality in Afghanistan, some information from UNICEF here. So that would be quite an interesting thing to make sure that it's relevant to an audience. Okay, so next thing that we can do to try and narrow down our results even more, if we get rid of our timeline here, is we can go into advanced search. Eventually. So when you're in advanced search, you've got still your search box here, but you could make your search more specific by asking it to find an exact phrase or choosing between different phrases or words. Again, you have the option here to control your reading level, so let's make it intermediate results. And this is the thing that I think is most useful within here, file type. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, I want to only find PowerPoints. And then here I've got PowerPoints about child mortality that are at a decent reading level and not going to be too complicated for me. So if I look at the very first one, Rotary and the Millennium Goal for Safe Water. So it's a specific issue related to child mortality that I could find some information about in a really accessible way. Okay, so once you've done your research and you're starting to plan your film, something you might want to do is add in some images to it. So if we go to images, let's get rid of this file type first of all. And then we go to images. And eventually it'll catch up with us. So we've got lots of images, and I'm thinking that this is a particularly powerful one, where I'm talking about the difference that medication could make in saving children's lives, for example. So I'm going to hover over this picture, and eventually it should enlarge. There we go, and then you can see you've got two options here, similar and more sizes. So first of all, I'm going to go to similar. Okay, so we've got lots of similar images now to this picture. So let's go with this one here. And I like this picture, but I know I'm going to need it bigger in order to fit it into my movie, so I'm going to click on more sizes. And then you can see I've got all the different sizes written down the bottom, so I'd be able to choose a nice large copy of the image in order to make sure that it projected well onto the big screen. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you is an exciting new tool from Google, which is called Google Squared. Now what Google Squared does is create a table of information for you based on your search term. So I'm going to use here, I'm going to click in the box and I'm going to search for countries with high child mortality. And square it. And again, this will give you an idea of how long this will take to do at school. And here you can see it's created a table. It's giving me a list of countries with high child mortality, some images that particularly fit with each country, a description about the country, the capital, its independence, its population, and if I move along here, a motto as well. Now what's really interesting here is if I go to add a column, it's going to suggest some other examples. So I'm going to, obviously I want to look at the infant mortality rates. Now for some of these it becomes unsure because the places on the internet will disagree. So you can have a look at different sources and you can pick one. So for example, worldpress.org is likely to be quite reliable, so I'm going to put that value in. And then I'll be consistent, so I'll stick with worldpress.org. So you can draw a comparison like this, and then you can look at other things that maybe are affecting infant mortality by looking at this column. So you might want to look at, for example, how many ethnic groups there are in the country, or particular types of ethnic group. Or you might want to look at how much the country earns. So if we put in GDP and see what it comes up for. So it's going to give, again, it's giving me some suggested amounts. So GDP for Liberia, there we go. So you might be able to draw some comparisons like this. Now, one word of warning with this tool. If I just show you this example, now what we would expect to see here is presumably Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and information about each planet. And here they are, you can see Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Earth, Neptune, all sounds good. However, if I continue to scroll down this page, you can see I've now got Tatooine, Alderaan, and Hoth. What I'm trying to highlight to you is that don't assume that just because you find something in Google it means it is absolutely accurate. Make sure you check your sources, is it somewhere that is reliable? But otherwise, good luck Googling.